Can you see me?
Yes. Yes, you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
I always just press play really quickly, like a little sneak back. Just
That's early this time. I'm usually running behind schedule, but today went perfect for me.
really a perfect day. How often do we have those nowadays?
I'm sorry?
How often do we have perfect days nowadays?
Rarely. But you gotta
What?
have
Oh,
hope. You gotta have hope.
your view in the background. Oh my goodness. Are you in Miami?
I'm in Miami. This is
Oh,
my new crib.
I see. So now you're in between New York and Miami now. What's going on with that?
Well, I'm in Miami full time now actually. So I moved here permanently 2 years ago. I was going back and forth for a little bit, but it's too hectic, especially in our profession right
Yeah.
now, just in Miami in Edgewater.
Unfortunately, we can't do remote work in dentistry.
I wish. I mean, some people travel back and forth, but it's not very sustainable depending upon, if you have a practice or not, or if you're just contracting, which is kind of stressful. So
It's
staying.
impossible. It's not even possible. How are you doing the both Miami, New York?
Well, I'm really just practicing in Miami right now. Initially, I was actually doing some consults that were coming through social media, consult links and doing virtual. And I ended up doing a lot of New York consults when I moved to Miami because I still had such a clientele in New York. And I
Mm.
ended up referring those patients to colleagues of mine in New York because it just became a little bit difficult to handle both. I don't own a
Yeah.
practice right now, so it was a lot. But the options were there to, rent a space and do the whole thing. But it's better this way for now.
Yeah, yeah, God, that'll wipe you out going back and forth between Florida, New York, back and forth like that. I mean, you could do it, but that's just such a hassle.
It's a hassle. And where are you located?
I'm in Manhattan right now.
What part?
Kips Bay.
Oh, I see the Empire State Building right
Yeah,
behind you.
yeah,
Beautiful.
that's it. That's it right over
I
there.
remember the New York hustle. I went to school in Boston at Tufts, and then I did a residency GPR, and that was for Northwell Health Hospital. So I remember that year.
Oh, well,
I was doing so many things that year outside of dentistry and doing residency. It was craziness, and I had to sleep in the hospital. It was travel one. So actually, there were no on site S residents
oh, that's right. You had to call someone in.
to call them in, but so 99% of the time we would take those calls,
Right.
which is crazy, right? So yeah, I'll never forget that. I was the first one to be on call.
Who were the oral surgery residents that you were calling in, if you remember? Was it like Andrew Lally? Was it Monica?
There's the
What?
M. Oh God, Mitchell Morsky.
Yeah, Mitchell.
Mitchell something. Yeah.
Yeah, Mitchell. George with the long hair, the really,
No,
really long. No, no.
man, it's been a while. I don't remember. But no, yeah, we had two, and then another one was a female on.
I never met her. Huh.
Yeah, props to you. How many more years do you have?
Let's let 2.5 months.
2.5 months.
Yeah, yeah, trying to get out.
That's amazing. Good for you. Congrats.
We're getting there. Trying to walk in your footsteps, finding the spot, getting a dream opportunity. That's what it's all about, right?
It's hard work. You know it. I mean,
Yeah. How
as
many
a
days you working right now? How many days you in the office? How many days you in any weekends?
I used to. So when I first moved here and I was trying to develop my own clientele. So I ended up accepting online consults, as I was telling you, that I
Hmm.
was doing on my own. And then I ended up working in an office on Saturdays independently, where I would go 50-50 with the owner. So I wasn't leasing the space, but I was able to have a gig where, okay, I'm going to bring in my own assistant and I'm going to bring in my own patient and
Yeah.
I'm going to check the patient out. And this is how we're going to do it. So once I started doing that, I was accepting Saturdays so that I can start to develop my own roster. It was tough. It was really tough. And that was when I was working 6 days a week, but at least I was in control of my Saturday schedule.
Yeah.
So after doing that, I realized, it was wearing me down. And even though it was good and I had to do it in the beginning, I ended up just going to 5 days. And then for a very, very short period of time, I was not working every other Tuesday.
Okay.
I am working 5 days a week, but we leave a little bit early on Friday. And it's tough. It's definitely tough on the body, tough mentally. And,
Mhm.
you and I, we're doing other things too, right? So we have to preserve our energy very, very well. And yeah,
Always putting on another face for the next patient, always enthusiastic and hopeful and optimistic and always kind of like, and you remember this from being on call. Do you remember when you're on call? It was like you're always in low power mode. Do you remember? Like, did you ever feel that
oh,
way?
Yes, yes.
It's like, when you put the phone in low power mode, it's like your body is constantly in.
I'm still traumatized to this day when I hear the sound. I know, like, some phones at my office actually sounded like that. It
Isn't
was
it
like,
so traumatic?
it's traumatic because my first call was 4 in the morning and it was for crazy facial trauma. And I was like, oh, here we go. It's like,
Uh,
first call, you're like, oh, shoot.
and then when that pager goes off, yeah, you're not kidding. That beep it's such a unique beep. And then anything in a similar tone, it could just be like a squeak of the door, and you're like, oh,
Yeah, I know. Anything for the
yeah.
suit. I know. But hey, it develops a little bit more character. It really does. And I wouldn't have traded anything for anything, honestly. I think the path that I went on was meant to be and it somehow led me here. So I'm very content here right now. I do miss New York, but it's a very stressful environment unless you're able to manage it well. And that comes with experience. So not
Right.
everyone's capable of it because they don't know how to change their perspective on it.
Right.
Right? Something like what you're doing. It's tough.
I agree. Yeah. And that change of perspective is so important. And then that tight year too, because you came from Tufts, you went right into GPR residency, and then boom, you're out. You were practicing in Manhattan for a while.
Yes.
How many years did it take you to make the full switch to Miami? Like 100%.
Yeah. About a year and a half. So I was working, still contracting, and I was in about 3 to 4 practices. So just imagine, first off, it takes forever to get your New York license after residency because New York is so slow. I applied for my New Jersey license, and I was working. My first job was in Hoboken, Jersey City area, and I started in a private practice there that I found through Indeed. This was the only job I have ever accepted through Indeed. No, really, it just happens to be. I don't know. After that,
it's a good spot. Yeah.
it was just internal referral after that, and I realized looking back, it's much better if you can really network as best you can, especially when you're starting. You get personal recommendations to these jobs, so people know it's just better in dentistry if you're going to private practice to go. But anyways, I started there, and then I was in about 3 practices: an ortho practice where I was basically the GP doing clear aligners with an orthodontist. And then another one was a boutique dental practice. This was not like a corporate model, but a little bit. They had a few locations. The third one was once or twice a week, and this was one that was an internal referral from Tufts, and it was a high-end cosmetic office right in the heart of Columbus Circle. And that was when I first learned all the cosmetic dentistry and really a completely different level of dentistry that I've ever been accustomed to seeing every day. So I learned a ton about the business side and the clinical side from that job. And then I ended up accepting an offer in Miami that also came through internal referral that led me to actually start placing implants. And I got 2 fellowships in implantology after doing additional training. So I spent about almost 2 years doing more training. And this was while I was practicing. So that's when I started loving, well, I already loved doing surgery. There were some surgical procedures that I couldn't get my hands off of. And I was very, very like confident in doing it. And I just learned a ton. And I had mentorship as well. The practice owner, another female who kind of took me under her wing and taught me what she knows. So
Who was it? Could you name drop or?
Should I? Am I allowed to?
Yeah, please.
So Dr. Tatiana Herzog. So she owns Implant Center of Miami. They have about 5 locations. And I was basically accepted as the doctor to now run their newer location. That lasted, yeah, but it lasted about a year and a half. I sadly had to leave the office. So yeah. Unfortunately, yes. So yes, I left, but it was a great experience. And I started in June in another office. This is a primarily prosthodontic run practice. So they're doing a lot more full arch cases, like full mouth rehabilitations, not implant, but the prosthetic portion.
Yeah.
Like crown bridge, veneers. So that's now what I'm doing. So I'm not actually doing implant surgery right now.
Got it. And you had a great course right out of GPR. You were doing clear liners with the orthodontist. You were in a Hoboken learning from the private practice standpoint. And you were in Manhattan getting the cosmetics.
Yeah.
By the way, in Hoboken, was that Louis Chen or was that a different? Okay.
But we were in touch at some point. Yeah. I remember because he had a practice in Hoboken and he did reach out to me when I first finished.
I'm sure.
But anyways, yeah.
He's got an eye for talent. He's got a particular eye. He's good with business. He's good with people. He knows branding as well, which I'm looking forward to getting into. So yeah, I had to ask because I'm familiar with his eye. He knows what he's doing.
You were spot on. We definitely connected. I did visit the practice. I just don't remember what happened. I think I just ended up getting a job earlier, maybe something. I don't know. But it was good. It was private practice. So
Yeah, and so of all this training and experience and exposure you've gotten to such a wide range of what's
yeah.
kind of like your number one go to? Like, what do you look forward to doing to every day? I'm curious.
Oh man, I could tell you what I really looked forward to doing surgery, which is crazy. And I actually thought about, I'm like, should I go back to school? Should I become an oral surgeon?
You think about doing it?
And then I thought to myself, I'm like, I'm too far into the game right now.
Yeah.
And it didn't have 100% of my heart to go back to do that. But to the capacity that I'm able to with my training and as a GP, I think that was sufficient for me. But every day currently, what I look forward to is actually designing cases. And this is what I've learned through with a lot of mentorship. Like one cosmetic dentists who I have reached out to personally, cosmetic dentists who have taken me under their wing, shown me what they've learned, all age ranges,
That's the
old,
best.
hiring to newer. And I've been able to develop my own, trial and error, learning what works for me, what works in big cases, what doesn't. And I think that's what I look forward to. I think I look forward to learning from my mistakes. I'll be completely honest with you. I am so open to taking a case and doing it to the best of my ability, which means going forward and planning the case to the best of my ability with mentorship before going forward with a case. Once I do that, I know that whatever mistakes are made here were meant to happen and it's not the end of the world, and we'll learn from it and get better. And that's what's going to happen, especially when you're doing full arch cases. You are always going to be learning something new. Even the patient management standpoint, that's a whole other portion that you learn.
Yeah.
So I'm going in with like a fresh pair of eyes. Like, okay, what does today have to bring?
Yep.
Nothing's going to tear me down. That's what you have to go into the dental profession like that every day.
Every day.
Yes. That's the mentality we all need. Even if you are going into a practice and you have like 4 patients, it doesn't matter. You could be doing a big procedure, minor procedure. You still have to have that mental strength, the resilience, and like an innocence, like as well, like yearning for knowledge. Just keep that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so funny you mentioned the patient management too. Now that's a whole nother can of worms. That's another dimension to it, the whole side of it, and explaining any misunderstanding. Like they might not see it the way, when you're looking at a case and this, you're looking at it like 5, 6, 7 steps out. This could be, you're looking at this maybe 6, 12 months out even. And they're like, well, I'm just, they're looking at like tomorrow, and we're like, well, wait a minute. we gotta get to, so, and then it translating into their language, which is a whole nother thing. So, I mean, that's a long road we could.
That takes so much time with a patient in the beginning before treatment. I've learned that is the most important step.
Yeah.
You're building the rapport, and the patients are getting to know also how you work. Because sometimes it's okay for you and a patient to just not be the best match. And that's okay.
How do you break that to a patient? How do you verbalize, maybe this isn't going in the direction that I would really like to see it go, and I'm hopeful for the right case, the right outcome of this. How do you kind of translate that into the, maybe I'm not the best provider for you kind of thing? How do you kind of verbalize that?
Use that direct verbiage, but I do state, and by the way, this has never turned a patient away. It actually has changed their perspective. So I would talk to the patient and be very certain, secure, and firm about the quality of care and the standard procedure that I provide and the way that I do it and the reasoning behind it. Before I even get to the disconnect, they understand, okay, this is clearly regimented. This is how this practitioner works. This is why they work this way. And this is the value that they have to bring. And by the end of the conversation, it's more clear. Now, if the patient decides at that point that it's not going to work out, it's usually due to finances, to be honest with you. So that's a different part of dentistry that, is hard, but we can't always control completely. So, there's a fine line. But you know what? I also learned this because I worked in many different demographics. Like I was in Columbus Circle, high end. And I was working also in a demographic in Miami that was pretty low in the socioeconomic status. It was skills. And I learned that no matter the treatment recommendation, not only are there multiple ways to treat a patient, but we have to look at not only their dental IQ, so pre-existing knowledge, but also their motivation and the fact that we can actually find ways to still treat a patient regardless of the number, monetary. So there always is a way to treat a patient. Now, if it's going to do more harm than good, that's when we don't treat the patient. There are select cases in which we have to decide it's just not going to work out this time unless it's an emergency. But there are a lot of other cases where you can find a way to be a stepping stone for that patient to then continue care. And I strive for that, especially in that demographic. Getting the patient comfortable to just come in for a cleaning, a deep cleaning, was the number one determining factor that would allow them to come and get more treatment. Yeah. And these are things that I learned. So it's really like, if the patient can't pay for the implant right now, get them in for the SRP. Rapport with them. Don't send them away, And that's another thing that I've learned from the practice management standpoint. So not only being the clinician, but I was the only doctor in the office. So I had to make sure that these patients weren't just walking out the door. I realized the value and the money that goes behind marketing and the branding. And when you get a patient through the door, that is money.
Yeah.
It is money. It costs money to get the patient in there. So it's not just thinking about the business, but it's also, how can I help this person? There's always something that can be done. And that's what I've learned. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful realization.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like what you said too, where it might not be necessarily like the home run, the treatment plan you designed for them, but maybe just getting a single or double is going to get them started on that path to that goal, the smile that they're looking for. I really like that, breaking it down in that sense.
I've learned that just trial and error and being solo in the journey, realizing I need to also make money too, but I want to help people. So I need to find a way. And still to this day, there's so many ways that I'm still thinking of improving the field to the best of my capability as one person. And I think that there's a lot of ways that we can do that too.
Yeah. The practice you're in right now, you said doing a lot of like full arch restorations and working a lot with prosthodontics. That's are you still in separate offices, or is the one, like you're in one now, Monday through Friday, 5 days a week? That's the one practice?
Just one practice. There are a few doctors there. Like I said, prosthodontics trained, and then there's 3 partners. So how it works is it's very collaborative. So since there's multiple doctors usually working at the same time, we work together and say, hey, what are your thoughts on this? Oh, how would you approach this? And this has allowed me to really level up in my career too. So I went from being solo, completely different demographic, working for people who weren't even there, working alongside an orthodontist. Then now I'm in a more of a group setting where we're all striving for similar quality care. And that's another key important part.
Yeah, that is it.
I sought out this practice.
Do you think maybe there's partnership in the future for you over there?
So I don't think so, because they already have 3 partners and they have a few locations. It was mentioned before, but I don't think so.
Gotcha. Down the road, do you think is that one of your goals? Is that one of your aspirations?
I had there's different avenues that we can all go. And one of mine, honestly, is to be able to develop one on my own with a partner, at least.
With a partner. Okay. So you and one other person, you think? Two?
Yeah, but the idea has honestly been developed a few years ago. And I realized that this is something I'll have to probably begin on my own and then have a partner come in.
Okay. Start it on your own, develop the brand, develop the business, get it kind of going direction you want it to go, and then bring on someone that you could kind of
who align what I'm doing, because what I want to do, someone needs to really believe in it too.
Yeah.
And so I think that'll happen organically over time, but I think that's the avenue I'd have to go. And yeah, building a brand, that is something that I definitely will know how to do. And it's separate from the personal brand, but it's so important because now in dentistry, as everything is going, it's evolving towards the more corporate end. Believe it or not, a lot of these baby boomers are retiring now. And when you're seeking out someone like myself, I'm 5 years out from graduating. So let's think about it. If someone my age is looking to purchase a practice or acquire one from a baby boomer, very commonly the price to acquire the practice is going to be much more elevated than the actual worth. And I hate to say this. I mean, I'm saying this live on a podcast, but it's true. I've actually experienced it firsthand for a whole year of actually looking to see now that these baby boomers didn't go into the practice thinking about personal branding. They didn't. And that
Right.
actually led them to now be in positions where they're solely dependent upon the revenue generation. It is without them, there is no practice. So these corporate models and these private equities, they're looking for businesses that can thrive on their own.
Right.
So you have to have standardized operating procedures. You need to have some type of way to get recurring revenue. So if you're thinking more of the business side, these baby boomers, unfortunately, didn't have that pre-existing knowledge. It was just norm to go in, buy practice, start seeing patients. So it was a completely different venture. Nowadays, this is why I'm so passionate about the concept of branding, because it detaches you. Believe it or not, it can detach you from the actual dependency of being 9 to 5 working clinically in a practice.
Right.
It doesn't mean that everyone has to be a business owner. You can be in a group, you can be an associate dentist, you can be a partner, and you can have this brand that is your own business that is constantly generating yourself revenue. You have autonomy over it. That's the beauty of it. You have
Right.
autonomy of it. We're all seeking this like self-actualization, finding your purpose, fulfillment. But I think also at the end of the day, we need autonomy. No matter what you want for yourself, you want to feel like you're in control of some part of your life, right? Or else you just get stuck in the rut.
Everyone ends up getting stuck in the rut. Like you said, those baby boomers, they all got stuck in the rut. Now they're trying to sell the practice. When they're not there, they are the brand, but that's a person, not a brand.
Right.
The whole stuff. How did you kind of separate yourself? Because now you have the real Dr. Mel. You have your Dr. Mel. You know, you have the two separate Instagram pages. You got the podcast now. How have you kind of, well, one, formulated these over time, but then kind of separated them, and also from yourself on the back end? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
In the beginning, when I wanted to post more of my portfolio work, and by the way, I have a ton that I still have not posted yet. I have it in my Google Drive, and I'm like, it's a lot of energy to
What are
do
you
it.
looking for?
I'm going to do it. But I realized the reason why I had a separate Instagram in the beginning is because I thought it would be a cleaner way of just keeping everything the same. I was obviously doing so many other things that weren't directly tied to dentistry. And what I realized is that, it works if you're consistent. I think it's a great place to just post one specific type of content. But at the same time, I think that it's actually better to sprinkle it in within your personal brand, which is your number one self Instagram. So
Right.
your primary account. Back when I started that Instagram, things weren't like that actually. So I was just testing the waters to learn. And I think it's better off the other way. So, I think there's ways to do it right. When I first learned about personal branding, I actually wasn't in a dental office. I was on stage. So my journey into branding, it didn't start with dentistry. It didn't. And it's actually a beautiful story, I think, because it's when I started participating.
Tell me. Yeah.
I started participating in pageantry. So I
I did
competed.
see this. Yes.
Yep, I competed in Miss USA Ventures. I did 3 pageants, and one of them was during residency. And what I learned competing in Miss USA New York and Massachusetts was that it's one of the most valuable lessons you can carry into your career today is that your brand is your unique value proposition. That's a business term. It's your main personal story. It's your core values. It's the experiences that shape who you are. And it's just not about the aesthetics. It's about clarity. It's about purpose, like how you show up in the world.
Yeah.
So once you really understand this, then everything else, career success, fulfillment, patient trust, it all flows so much more effortlessly. So that's where it all started. And I learned so much about that because I was hiring coaches, trainers for the first time in my life, meeting late nights after driving 3 hours for the whole day, commuting to residency back, commuting to work and back. And I was sitting on a Zoom or a FaceTime and I was going over public speaking, interview preparation, developing what my brand was. What is my positioning for this competition? It really shifts your perspective. It was something not tied to dentistry, but the value behind that preparation process was exactly what was needed. And I realized how much it's lacking in our field,
Yeah.
in fields, but in ours, especially when you're in school and you're in training, you are really you're spending so many hours just focusing on one thing. You're trying to get that degree, you're trying to get your license, and you become blind. You forget about all these other things. You're tired,
Right.
emotionally drained. You're losing a perspective on why you're really here. You might be here to also practice dentistry, but why are you really here? And if you think deeper about it and really reflect, I think it opens up a huge, like, this plethora of opportunity that is coming your way. And this is career and personal life. You have to be fulfilled in both.
I like how you tie that into like slipping in your work in addition to the photo of your personal life, in addition to the pageantry, and it's exactly what you're saying. It creates this smooth story of your life, which ultimately is the reflection of your brand. And through those photos, the picture is 1,000 words, right? And then not just one photo after another, a video. It shows your life, and then underlying that is your story. And then that's every time you walk into the office, every time you walk on stage, you're carrying all of that with you in a good supportive way. I think it's so true. And
Yes.
another point you mentioned here is that I like to call dentistry like the trade, right?
Mhm.
The trade is whatever you do. It could be, the products you sell on Amazon, and then you have the marketing of it. How
Right.
do you get people to find these products? So you have a great app, you got a great logo, it's the name, it's the service. That's all the marketing. And then you have the finances. How do you keep this thing afloat? How do you keep it going? And we don't learn any of that in dental school, like you mentioned. That's completely foreign to us coming out of dental school.
I know. The longest part and the hardest part of this whole personal branding journey is really the personal development portion, because most dentists focus on clinical skills first, marketing second, and then what
Right.
comes last, personal development, if you even get to that. But it's backward. You have to understand who you are, what you stand for before you can even effectively market yourself. And you
Yes.
can't go to a marketing company and say, hey, market for me. They're going to ask you these questions that you won't have the answer to. Don't even ask you questions, which a majority of them don't. You're becoming a cookie cutter dentist. Your personal brand starts from within. It's not just a strategy, it's a reflection of your values and your mission. And if I could talk about a logo, your brand is not just a logo. It's a reflection of values and experiences and impact that you have. So everything shifts. And when you're talking about dental students, I think that this is when you have to focus on the self discovery. Majority of students are in their 20s. The
Yep.
reality is that. And in your 20s, you're going to spend time making a lot of mistakes, learning who you are, accepting more of who you are. And if you're doing hard things during that process, how much harder is it to actually learn about yourself? Think about it.
You're drowning. There's no time to learn. Yeah.
You're drowning. So when I was first starting out, I thought branding was having a polished Instagram, having a website, having a logo. And then I started reflecting back on the pageantry days, and I was like, wow, branding really is about self discovery. It's about knowing what I stood for too. And in pageantry, you have to be so seasoned on everything. Believe it or not, people don't realize this, but you are on a stage and you are getting asked anything and everything, and you have 2 minutes. Sometimes you have 30 seconds, and you have to have it so down. Every answer that you spit out has to
Mm.
have a lot of value to give to the
Mhm.
audience, but also throughout that, you're sprinkling in a bunch of things about yourself that they need to know about you. So
Ah,
self-aware do you have to be during that process? See,
right.
that's the challenge. And I never realized how difficult it would be until I actually did it. So I think once you go through that initial process, it's so much easier. And I consult with dentists on this. I actually do this one-on-one with dentists.
Oh,
This
I'm sure you're.
very thing that we're talking about, I
Yeah.
one-on-one consulting. And I don't really market it, but I've been reached out to, and this was within the past year after doing some speaking events.
I,
So
I just, while we're on the pageantry topic, what's the thing that you found most challenging that you really had to prepare for? Was it the answering the questions? Was it the walking? I can't imagine walking in heels like that. So was it the walking?
I wish I could say the walking was the hardest, but that was something I practiced the least.
Really?
And more last minute, yeah, because I needed to know if I'm going to be on a stage and I'm going to be potentially getting crowned, which means you now have a platform of purpose. You need to know what
Mm,
you're going to do with it. And everyone has their own story. So you have to go back and develop and figure out, okay, why do I even want to do this? Half of them,
mm,
listen, I'll be honest with you, they want to do it because of the glitz and the glam. You do the photo shoots, and or you know what? Some of them also do it because they're shy and they're trying to face their fears. They're trying to step
Ah,
out of their shell. And I've met a lot of girls who've done that. And then you have a select group who really are doing a lot outside of their careers, outside of pageantry, and they want to find ways to tie it in because they need a greater circle of reach. Okay, so that was me. I personally went into that pageantry journey because I knew that there would be a greater chance of getting my voice heard for certain matters that I wanted to tie in, and a lot of it actually had to do with dentistry. And so I wanted to find a path to not only beat the societal expectation that we know, like dentists are, what, you're a dentist, why are you doing a pageant? This is ridiculous. So also internally, I also thought, okay, well, this is different. And I think, this might be a positive message.
yeah.
Might be a positive message. So I did it also thinking that it might positively impact younger girls. And it did tremendously, more than I even imagined. People were reaching out to me. Hey, I didn't even think I could do pageants one day. I'm in dental school. Hey, thank you for, this. Thank you for that. It's really cool what you're doing. And it's different. It's different. If you're able to go into something also thinking philanthropy too, which is
Mm.
really, how I was envisioning it at the time. I thought this would be an amazing way of just increasing the circle of influence and just doing something that was tied into a larger organization. You don't actually need that, right?
Mm.
That was the motivation was there to do that.
So many things, and then it's so inspiring for these younger girls. Yeah.
Yeah.
To show you that, and that's another thing. Have you noticed these big organizations? They love to tell us as dentists, they're like, look, we're going to take care of the marketing. We're going to take care of the finances. We'll talk to the patients for you. I want you to just focus on doing what you love. And it's almost like, wait a minute, we could do so much more than just dentistry. And that's what I love about that. When you were saying, like, so many people are looking at you like, why are you doing pageantry? Why are you doing pageants during dental school, during
I know.
it's like, yeah, because we can, because you can. And it's like, you got to do this. This is a part of you.
I'm just getting myself trapped in a box. And I'll tell you briefly the story that I have told when a lot of people actually, when I have gone asked this question, why did I do pageants? The first time I saw an ad to apply was when I was in my third year of dental school in Tufts. It was about 10 o'clock at night on a weekday. And I was on my phone scrolling on Instagram stories.
All
Okay.
right. All right.
Then all of a sudden, I see this ad, Miss Massachusetts, USA, apply now. And I'm like, I scroll past it and I go back. I'm like, click link. And then I'm looking at it and I remember it was so quick, the thought process, but I had a flashback to when I was much younger. And I actually used to watch Miss Universe with my grandma and my mom.
No way.
I used to watch it all the time. It was like a hobby, like watching sports. Like it was like a hobby. So, but my favorite part about the pageant was always the Q&A on stage. I just remember thinking, like, wow, I really love how she answered that. Or wow, that's so cool. She's able to just take anything that comes at her and just like know how to answer. And my mom and I would actually grade each of these speakers. And when I was younger, I also was in public speaking. When I was in dental school, I was doing research. I was always speaking and presenting. And I just thought to myself, wow, that's something I actually envisioned maybe I could do as a little girl. And it was like such a quick, like a fleeting thought. And
Yeah.
it hit me. I was like, wow, I don't know. Let me just write a blurb because it just asks for a photo and one sentence about yourself to start.
One sentence?
Sentence. So I wrote dental student who has a wellness blog because I had a wellness blog.
Okay. Okay.
When I started learning social media, I was like I created my own website and, I was learning all these things and I thought it was fun. So they ended up calling me almost immediately and they were very intrigued. They wanted to meet me in person and interview me. And I remember I was leaving clinic one night. I was going to go to my interview and I had to take an Uber about a half hour out from Tufts. And it was raining, pouring rain. I was in my blue scrubs, those hospital scrubs. Yeah.
Yep.
We had to wear those. And I remember going there late and they were just like, this girl's raw. Look at this. Come on. So anyways, I told them about me and they said, hey, we think you have a pretty good chance at doing this successfully. And I said, yeah, that'd be cool. But, so what's the catch? I'm like, what's the catch? I'm like sitting down like, what do you really want? No one's going to fool me. How much money do you want? And what is this really going to take?
Right. Right.
Things money, organizations, right? So
Mhm.
they're like, yeah, you have to submit your deposit today, and it's going to be probably, I think it was like $1,500. Okay, to just be
Just like that, you're on your first interview.
1,500. I'm like, I'm a student and I have loans. Like you know the YouTube video with the little boy with the mask. Like I like turtles. Like that's literally what. That's why I was like, I have loans. Bye.
Just they expect you to just drop 1,500 on the spotlight.
I said, I'm
You're
sorry.
scrubs.
So, but listen to this. This is where it gets beautiful. I ended up talking to two friends about this. Okay. And I had a bunch of friends actually make this happen for me.
No way. So your friend group came together and
Friend group came together and they're the reason why I was able to do this because, and I remember one of them told me, there is no reason why someone shouldn't be able to achieve their goals. If it's financial, it's not good enough. So they found a way. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. But how am I going to pay for my dress? How am I going to pay for my trainers? So this is where it all fell into place, which is crazy. I went to this gym right by my school, and one of the trainers at the gym just started to notice I go there every day. They're like, hey, what's up? Hey, a little pointer on your deadlift. And we started talking. And he was like, hey, you're doing a pattern. I'm like, yeah, actually, I don't know how this happened, but I just got in last week and I don't know. I guess I have to be on stage in 2 months. So I don't know. I'm going to be here a lot more. And he's like, that's amazing. How about I'll train you for the pageant and you'll be my client, my pageant client. I'm like, okay, sure.
win-win.
Clearly this was a trainer starting out his career and he was doing it was like a win-win situation.
Yeah.
And so I ended up collaborating with him. He worked on the weekends as an Uber driver. Okay. One day, a week after I met him, he calls me and he says, hey, Melanie, you're still doing the pageant, right? I'm like, yeah. He said, I was driving this woman earlier today and she mentioned that she is a pageant coach. So I want you guys to meet because she goes to the same gym. Okay. I go to the gym. I meet with this girl, Amanda, who literally changed my life. Amanda changed my life. I sit down with Amanda and she's a former finalist, like top 3 in Miss Rhode Island. And
Wow.
she's retired. She's retired. She was about in her late 30s when I met her.
Retired in your late 30s. Okay, I'm sorry. Go on.
You can't, yeah, it's weird. I know. So, anyways, I meet with her and she tells me that she does pro bono coaching for
Yeah.
2 girls every year that she trains one on one. And she happened to go to my gym. It was perfect. She really loved me and she became my life coach slash pageant coach. And she took me under her wing completely. Even let me borrow a dress that she had. I mean, she just let me be her little like prodigy.
This all came together perfectly. Yeah.
See how crazy, and I don't know how, but I think, when there's a will, there's a way. I mean, really, that's something that a lot of girls would have to pay a lot of money for. And,
Yeah.
once I started getting income and I was working, I ended up doing Miss New York and fully funded myself.
That's
And
right. That's
I
right.
ended up, that's when I hired the most coaches and the most trainers. And I said, you know what? I want to level up. I already did this. Let's do it again for my home state.
Yeah.
Sure. And I was like, okay, let's do it. I hired the best of the best. I was speaking to multiple former pageant title holders. So I had them train me. I was asking everyone for an hour of their time. Let's go. Let's go. I want to compile everyone's knowledge and expertise and I want to kick butt. And I became finalist and it was like an awesome campaign and it was big. And it was for a short period of time, but I realized it's, those things aren't forever, but the value that I got from it already I have received. And now I'm able to take that experience, apply it to my profession and help other dentists think differently. So
Right.
that's what makes me excited. Like you're talking about what makes you excited at work every day. Well, like honestly, this opportunity to be able to have that voice and reach to other
Yeah.
dentists, especially younger ones coming out, I think that's more fulfilling to me.
I think so. Wow. And now you're taking that whole perspective and experience from the pageants and then all those coaches teaching you. And now you become the coach for other dentists and every patient that you see every day too. You're coaching them to bring out their smile a little bit more. So
Yes.
it all came together so much. This was just a few years ago, right? When you did in New York?
I did my last pageant 2 years ago.
Yeah, this is
2 years. Yeah. I
yeah.
remember that. Then the Florida system wanted me. They actually reached out, and I was like, "Nah, I'm retired."
No,
I could have done it, but I was like, I am doing way too much right now. And I want to focus more on now what's the next level for me. And it's now I want to really be that like that value creation,
Mm.
like, continue now sharing the knowledge and adding value to other people's lives. I think I just like, it's a whole different level. You know, the 30s, now you're different,
Mm.
right? So
The 30s are, yeah, the big 30s.
yeah, so it just happens that way, and just never have FOMO. At least I
Right.
did it a couple times. I'll be all right.
Got it all out of the way.
I just can't.
So that leads me to another question then, because obviously branding and stuff, but do you want to go into how to start a brand, or like I'm curious about that next chapter. I want to know a little bit more about that. What do you kind of see yourself in these 30s
Yeah.
being that next thing? So, okay, pageants in hindsight, everything you take it going forward, is it going to be working more with dentists? Is it going to be expanding on patients? Is it going to be opening that private practice one day, or what do
Yeah.
you think? Or is all the above?
So I currently, as I told you, I'm doing consulting with dentists one-on-one. And I have actually taken the time the past year to just get on a bunch of calls and to people who reach out and just learn what are the pain points in this industry besides what I already think are pain points. I've gotten to learn many different types of clients, and I've realized that there's three tiers of a client. Okay. The first tier is the dental student slash early associate.
Okay.
The
Yep.
second tier is about 5 to 10 years out, whether you're an associate or own your own practice.
Mm.
The third tier is seasoned practice owner or group practice owner or entrepreneur in dentistry, meaning you're not practicing clinical, but you maybe innovated a product, created something. So once I spoke to multiple from each tier, and I got to understand what everyone is still lacking and what they need. And it comes right back to this foundation that I was discussing with you. It's crazy. You can think someone 10 years out, they're still going to be relying on a brand that they have to be responsible for, that they have to be directly connected to. For
Right.
example, a tier 3 client, they're now looking to either sell to private equity, sell to DSO, do something else to detach, now retire a little bit. And these equity firms, I've learned this because I've actually sat in these meetings. I'm listening to what they're talking about. They're
Yeah.
saying the less dependent the provider is, the less dependent a business is on the provider. Okay.
Right.
More likely they are to increase your multiple of EBITDA that's the number you get when
Mhm.
you sell. So that's like one of the main things that they put a lot of emphasis on. And so having your strong brand as a practice owner, you're basically not only connecting how your other practices are going to be working, because they
Right.
have to have some similar alignment with like what you're building as a
Mhm.
solopreneur. Think of yourself as a solo brand. But then whatever's affiliated with you, although you're not directly in it doing dental, it's going to thrive because you built the home base so well.
Mm.
Now they can fly. So that's an example of a tier 3 that, I think now there's so many more of those. And when you're talking about 30s, I think also I want to practice what I preach, right? I'm not a tier 3, even though I know how to tackle that
Mm.
foundational standpoint. I'm not a tier 3, but I know that I'm capable of actually creating a brand. I want to actually share the process
Mhm.
entirely because I've learned how difficult it is to even be in a conversation with someone to take you seriously for this.
Mm.
Whether it's a bank giving you a loan, whether it's a contractor, an architect, you have to learn so much to actually do this for yourself that no one teaches you. And I want to be able to actually share that, like genuinely share that and do it. I want to do it.
Right.
So I was lucky, I put myself out there and I got to meet so many people, conferences, speaking engagements, and I'm picking people's brains all the time. I think everyone needs to do that. With those conversations, I'm learning something new every single day. And I've taken all of these pieces of knowledge and I was able to develop a little bit of a framework for how
Mm.
I can go. And I'm a systems person. I'm very organized, strategic with my coordination. Like I like organizations, curriculums. So that's what I want to strive for. Honestly, that's what I would want to do. I want to really streamline this and
Mhm.
really share a bunch of knowledge that I learned on my own. Really.
Where do you think you get most of your clients from? Is it social media? Is it like you spoke at Dental Influencers Alliance? what has been kind of like the main that gets you? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I would say majority social media, but I realized that a lot of people have started to learn about what I speak about,
Mm.
the conferences and organic content, which, I took so much time off from it. I'll be honest with you.
You did. What's going on?
Yeah, I did. And it's because I was shifting and doing this consulting or putting out more content. I wanted to really learn the pain points. Like I told you, I wanted to learn what's missing because now I can spit out the value like hardcore. And it was just a shift that I had to do. And it was
You got to
also
be a practitioner. That's 100% it. You got to live it. And you got to gather those experiences. You got to talk to those people in the boardroom meetings. Are you doing a lot of this? I wasn't able to check out the podcast. Are you bringing out a lot of this content onto the podcast?
yeah, so I was. And I actually started the podcast about 2 years ago when I moved to Miami.
That's right. Yeah.
I started with three other podcast partners and I actually created the logo and like from scratch, literally did it all by hand and by myself. And I created the YouTube, Spotify, Apple, the YouTube shorts, all the graphics, the brand kit,
Mm.
all of that stuff I created and I had a blast doing it. And as we were starting to develop the content, we actually came to a position where the content had to shift and it was due to some of the partners, more particularly one of the partners, actually kind of locked me out of the podcast. I'll be honest with you. He wanted to all of the content, created an LLC under his name, by the way, locked me out of it and everything I created. The only thing I owned was the domain. I never went after it, but ended up just taking ownership over it, locking me out of all the socials, and now completely shifted it. So I plan to actually create a new podcast
This is recent that this all happened
months ago. Yeah. Yeah.
because you still have on your profile host of the podcast. So
Yeah.
you're going to start from scratch.
Yeah, I will. So two of the partners actually decided to leave the podcast. Additionally, they didn't agree with what was going on. So that podcast now is being used solely to market high-end cosmetic cases for client acquisition, which really doesn't add much value to people listening. Unfortunately, although it was nice to have a few of those in the podcast, it's I don't
Not the
think
whole thing.
it's
Yeah.
adding value to dentists. It's not because there's so much more to dentistry. So I'm going to have a podcast where I'm going to be speaking about business,
Mm-hmm.
branding, and all of these things that come with the behind the scenes of being a dentist and to really share what you can be capable of.
Yeah.
In pioneers, thought leaders, people who have done bigger things in dentistry and use this as a more of a motivational platform for people to listen and learn.
Yep.
That's what's lacking too.
I
So
love that.
do that. I know you're doing that. I just if I'm going to go back into speaking, I definitely need to add that type of value to an audience. Everything happens for a reason, but it's another brand I will have to create from scratch. And I look forward to that venture. It's in the beginning stages, as you can imagine how busy I am right now. But yeah.
Well, you got to keep me in the loop with this. I love to keep in touch with people that have their own niche. I have a friend who does sunglasses. Actually, you might know her or of her through Robbie.
Yeah.
Robbie's friend, the sunglasses for people with like
Yeah.
sleep.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, I touch base with her every so often. Like what content tricks are you learn here? Like let me and then share. I love doing that. So we got to keep in touch with that from that standpoint of content creation, getting more podcast content out, tying that into your own brand and
Yeah.
clientele. But so two of those three partners, two of them stepped away. Would you consider bringing one or two of them back in your loop?
They did mention they did. I have slight reservations. I have to see how I would go about that. When it comes to actual ownership of a podcast, you need to have equal rights, and which means equal contributions. So I was actually the solo contributor initially, and then what happened is I ended up being able to work with partners who were actually adding a lot of value through podcast, what we were talking about, and guest speakers. But then it started to reach a plateau. And when you have so many partners, if everyone's on 100%, then one person's going to pick up slack and we're all busy. So I think with this, probably one or other partner or solo where I bring in
Hello.
go as partners, but I have solo ownership of the podcast. It's just me as the host, but I'm going to have, hey, today we have another host. Today we have another host, and maybe just go between one or two hosts and keep it simple. But
Right.
want to focus on guest speakers.
Yes.
I have a whole lineup of guest speakers. It's going to be awesome.
Good. You need to get started on this. And I completely agree. I think maybe you do that. Do this solo podcast and then you have guest speakers on. You
Yeah.
could also have guest speakers that like you do once a month with them or once a week with them. And that's like a separate like series, if you will. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a weekly or monthly show.
I'm
And
thinking,
then you could keep that going in that direction. There's so many ways to go about it.
yeah.
I think I want to see you just get back into the groove of content again.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. I mean, hey, I could film right here, but
Make it the background. Why not?
yeah, it's just a matter of just getting started. I was actually going to jumpstart that very soon.
Do it.
They just completely reached a different level in the consulting. So I want to find ways to now put more of that content out there, things that I've learned through that.
Yeah.
That I've been able to teach. I think a lot more people need to hear it, and
Mm-hmm.
a
Mm-hmm.
really cool way of seeing how I can like scale it a little. Have more people actually listen and hear.
Right.
You know.
I just got a really good thought. I know I don't want to keep you too long, and I can't thank you enough for coming out tonight for a quick chat.
Yeah.
This might be more than 3 minutes, but let's say if we reverse the scripts. I'm about to start out a new podcast because I just, put in a project behind me and now I'm going to start out new.
Yeah.
But you're the branding coach. How
Yep.
would you coach me just to get started?
On a
But kind of like in your own shoes, you know what I mean? Like, with like reversing the script.
yeah.
If I think that would be a cute little example because so many people come to you and I'm sure this is like a little introduction about how you can transform someone into beginning their brand,
My goodness. I mean, I'm gonna go back into the first part of it because you have to really, really, really know how you are authentically you. Okay. And then once you see, okay, where am I in my life? Where am I in my career? Figure that out, write it down. Now, after that, you want to also understand what do you not want for your career? The anti part of it is so important because it really shapes the focus and keeps you away from it. So be so firm and focused on what you do not want for your career and your personal life as well.
Can you give me a quick example of that just to
Yeah.
kind of bring that? Yeah.
Like this is my anti-vision. Working clinically 5 days a week up until the age of 65. Okay. Not having autonomy over my finances and career personally. And I don't think anyone honestly wants it. I don't
That's
think
a big
people
anti.
realize what their potential is, which is why a lot become, like comfortable. And it's okay. It's not for everyone, but I want people to think more outside the box of what.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my anti-vision. And if it never happens, it never happens, but it's going to. It's going to. I'm going to pass that because I already am thinking now. That's not what I want. So that every day naturally, all of my thoughts are going to shift towards how do I not make that happen? How do I not make that happen? Okay. So once you establish that, that's going to help you with clarity on your present moment. And the first step that you need to take, really, if you're not practicing, if you're early on, well, you need to also understand career-wise, what is the stepping stone? And this could be, even if you have 10 practices, there's still always a stepping stone. You have to look at it. What's the next step? Don't even look 10 steps. What is the very next first step that you need to take in absolutely anything you're doing? Career, personal, okay?
Yeah.
If you're going to the gym for the first time tomorrow, okay, first step, close your eyes, only look at the first step. So once you're doing that, then you're going to start to flow. You're going to flow with who you are, what you want, what you don't want. And then you're going to start to see what you're good at. That's going to come naturally. You're going to be like, okay, well, I handle this well. And that comes with self-reflection. You have to take the time. You can do it on a subway ride. Doesn't mean everyone has to wake up at 5 a.m. and journal, which listen, do it. I get it. I was commuting in the city. Yeah. Sometimes my silent moment was with my headphones in the subway. So do that and think about, okay, how did my day go? What could I have done better? What would I like to actually make happen that I couldn't make happen today or this week? And just think about why. Like, why are you feeling the way you are? All these little things. So once you do that, you're learning about what you're good at. As you're letting the days flow, you're also realizing, hey, I really hated doing this too. So that's when you're starting to develop little pieces of the brand.
Yeah, and that self-awareness is developing too.
It's not overnight. It's not. It's just never going to be overnight. This is going to be an experience and with reflection. So asking those questions to yourself intentionally, or working with a coach, something like that.
Right.
Then, okay, now we're thinking podcasts. Podcasts, I firmly believe that if you're going to be hosting a podcast, you have to go in with a pure intention. And yes, you need a value proposition in anything that you're really doing. You have to think of it like that. So
Right.
if you're going about your life thinking, what value can I provide to whatever party, audience, whatever, patient, then honestly, whatever you do becomes more fulfilling automatically. 100% automatically becomes more fulfilling. Even if you are doing something you don't really like, it actually helps, right? Hey, I'm helping, I'm doing this, at the end of the day, we all want to feel like we have purpose. So when we're providing value, it makes us feel more fulfilled naturally. So with the podcast, yes, become very solid. Who is your target audience, but also what's the avatar? A lot of people don't think about this in business either, but your avatar is your ideal client or your ideal listener. So describe it, be very specific. Male, female, sex, 13 years old, 40 years old, does this for a living, has this interest. Be so specific, so specific. For me, it would be highly motivated dentists who want to build a brand and have more autonomy over their careers. That's not as specific, but it's there. So something like that. And then now you're going to work backwards. Okay. So you know the avatar. Okay. This one person wants to probably hear what, and how are they going to take this value content that I'm providing? What are they going to do with it? You have to think, how exactly is that listener going to take what you're teaching and do something with it? What are the possibilities, right? So if I'm talking about entrepreneurship, starting a business, I am probably going to be helping someone do that. And that brings me awesome fulfillment. If I'm talking to dental students on how to get into dental school, hey, that value that I'm providing is helping people get into dental school. So as specific as you can. And then you're going to think of the umbrella. The umbrella is going to be this core pillar of topics that you want to talk about. So when we're talking about entrepreneurship, that's very broad, but that's going to be actually the umbrella. Entrepreneurship in dentistry. Okay. That's your umbrella. Within that, you're going to develop some pillars of content. I recommend 4 to 5. Those pillars are subcategories of content that you can dive deeper into and create more episodes on. So imagine you actually have already in mind 10 guest speakers. Write them all down, write a one-liner on what each person has done. Now, look at it all together and say, okay, can we actually divide this into some categories maybe? Does this make sense, or is there an overlying common topic? Sometimes you don't need 4 pillars. Sometimes it's just entrepreneurship and dentistry. And like everyone you're talking to has built a practice. So that's 10 people who built a practice, same thing in common under the umbrella. Or when we're talking about pillars, maybe we have 2 in tech and dentistry who started a practice. We have 2 who are group practice owners who have sold their practice. Like we're getting more specific. Or this one started a course. So now you're going deeper and deeper into the specifics, and you're creating your podcast.
I like this. Yeah.
Your episodes now, and it's organized. And then you can even put this on a Notion or like Word document, and you can organize this and just like kill it with a podcast. And you can even create your content captions beforehand. Like you can be more organized with it. So
I like this. This is helpful to me. I'm starting to put some pieces together. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. It sounds complex, but it's pretty feasible.
No, it's not complex at all. You just put it in a stepwise manner where it's like, I can definitely start this and get through in about 10, 15 minutes and have it all planned out. I think the way you just put us through it, like, I think that's really straightforward. Yeah.
It can also make you more motivated.
Right. And you said it yourself. It's like, if you're looking 5 years out, it's a little bit daunting.
Yeah.
So just focus on like you're saying, go to the gym tomorrow, just tomorrow. Let's focus on just there.
And the name of the podcast too. I know that this is very important, but it doesn't really matter what the name is. I recommend always purchasing the domain just in case.
Like .com or .org or something, you mean?
Yeah, all of them. Just whatever you can, because then if you start to monetize your podcast, you want to make sure that you still have rights over it. So that's like a great way to get started with ownership. And you also purchase the Instagram handle.
That can be tough. That can be really hard to get these days.
Whenever I start something new, I do that first, and it's mine. Like I already have my practice name owned.
Do you really?
Had it for a year. Yeah. I
I
haven't,
love that. Nice.
I own the Instagram and I own the domains. So I don't have an LLC or anything, but I own that. So whenever you think of an idea,
Protect it.
the best way to first like bring it into reality,
Mm.
like protect it. Because I just manifested a little bit by just making an Instagram for it. I'm
Oh,
not,
absolutely. Yeah.
no one knows it exists but me.
Hmm.
It's like that first step. And I think it's a game changer when you start doing that. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Did you get the Gmail too?
No, I did not. But once you own the domain, I think you're fine.
Yeah, you should be fine with that. What else would you probably the Facebook page that'll come with Instagram, got it. Would you do you said YouTube shorts before you did that with the other podcasts, so you're doing that.
Yep.
Would you do TikTok at all too?
Our podcast,
Clip the clip ups?
TikTok is an interesting beast.
It is.
I'll be honest, I never got too into it, but I think it's a great way of expanding the reach. But the type of content that I see on Instagram, I'm sorry, on TikTok is different than I think what I would normally see on a podcast or people interested in learning about something.
Hmm.
I think that TikTok is more, it's engaging with short form, like quick type of videos.
Very short form, very inflammatory stuff. Yeah, yeah.
So I think YouTube is amazing for long form because that content, the views increase over time. It's always there. Instagram, it kind of like fades. Well, I think YouTube's an amazing way to have the long form, and then you dissect the short form for Instagram. Yeah, if you have time or you have a VA, virtual assistant, have them post for you on TikTok. Which, by the way, underrated. I don't have one right now, but I help my clients actually get virtual assistants once I help them establish what they need to do with the
Do
brand.
you really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually very affordable. Very affordable. And what you want to do is you already want your brand developed. You want to have an organization structure, which I also do for my clients. I organize everything that we create for their brand.
Hmm.
So you can actually directly send it over with instructions to a virtual assistant. So whenever you're doing a project, it's great to stay organized and create some type of system so you can start to automate and be less like, deprived. Like if you are the only person doing everything all the time, it's going to be exhausting and you're going to lose motivation.
That's such a good point. I might have to in the DM later or something. I might have to ask you about the virtual assistant. In the next few months, I need to ask you about that one.
Sure. No, yeah, it's good. It's underrated, actually.
Do you think it really like takes a lot of like tasks and stuff off your plate? Like it's really is it good for that?
Yeah, but you have to make sure that you're actually pre-recording as much as you can with instructions on what you want the VA to do. So a platform like Loom is really good. You're going to be recording, okay, screen record your screen, and this is how you post on Instagram, or this is how you access your Google Drive documents, or this is the order in which you want things, or whatever it is. Have a pre-recording whenever you're gonna look into hiring this.
Gotcha.
NDAs and all the legal structures, that stuff that I send to the client. Here, send this and that. So sometimes it's just good. Like I had coaches. Once I learned everything on my own, I was like, okay, well, I can teach them things. I don't know everything, but hey, I mean, this can help someone because I didn't know this before.
Right.
Like the same thing with the practice. I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know what an LOI is. Do you know what an LOI is?
LOI, letter of intent.
Beautiful. I'm so proud. No freaking idea. And like, what? What is that? So anyways,
It's all these abbreviations. God, I can't keep up with them.
it's just the business stuff. No,
We learned enough of these abbreviations in dentistry, and now it's like now we got to learn the marketing, and then we got to learn the branding. All these abbreviations. Yeah, the EBITDA, right? Talking about the.
I would get an MBA actually. If I could go back in time, which I probably could, but we don't need to talk about that.
You got so much on your plate.
It's cool. I don't. It's fine with stuff like this. You learn as you go, and that's give it too.
Yeah.
You can't be afraid. Like, don't go in thinking you're going to know the whole process. I am a living proof example. I probably would have accomplished way more if I didn't have that mentality, and I'm still getting over it. But I would hold myself back from doing certain things at that time because I feel like I don't have all the steps in place yet.
Like what? What would you hold back from?
Oh my God, even the consulting. Before I actually started doing one-on-one real consulting with paid clients, I was like, hey, no, I have to still develop this system or learn this and that. I'm like, I still had the same amount of knowledge last year. That I mean, hey, the difference is I just went, I was like, okay, I'm just going to learn my client and we're going to find a way. And that's just the difference. Like, you don't have to feel like you have imposter syndrome or something like
Right.
that.
Just go
Everyone,
for it.
you have to just go for it. And people are reaching out to me. I'm not trying to scam people. People are
Hmm.
actually asking me because they have a feeling or some type of confidence in me to begin with that I can actually add some value. So, that also helps.
Well, I mean, you have a track record of just experience, and you're a go-getter. It really rubs off from like getting to meet you over that time. It's very inspiring. I think that's no, like people definitely, you could feel it through. I mean, just Instagram content. Are you on LinkedIn, by the way?
On LinkedIn, yeah, LinkedIn
Yeah,
is
yeah.
very important actually, especially when you're going to start any type of new project. It's a great way of actually getting clients or
Yeah,
interacting with people who are in the same industry as you. It's a
right.
great way of connecting.
I've been working a lot for LinkedIn, the B2B marketing, connecting with
Yes,
other professionals, referrals and stuff.
yes,
Yeah, it's been good for that.
yes.
I think you would do great on TikTok, by the way. It would be different content. I know, but
See.
yeah. Well, for another day. But
Yeah. Well, it was really nice speaking to you.
you too. Thanks so much for taking time.
My pleasure. It's always great talking about this stuff. It's a
I
lot.
love it. I love. By the way, what's your nationality? How do you have such dark hair but such bright eyes? How is that possible?
Oh my God, I'm like five different things. From my mom's side, her mother is half Dominican, half Lebanese. And then my grandfather from my mom's side is Croatian, Italian. And then from my dad's side, Corsican.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, what a mixture. Dominican and Lebanese.
Yeah, I have no
Wow.
idea about that. But the only person with light eyes in my family is my grandfather from Croatia.
The only one of all, really.
So I got it from him.
Got lucky.
And when I was born, I remember my dad was like, I didn't even know what? You were my daughter? It didn't even look like you had light eye. I'm like, but anyways, it's really happy now to this day.
That's really funny.
Thank God I got the lighter eyes, Dad.
Did it help on the pageants?
I don't know. The photos came out cool, I guess. I ended up wearing green for nearly all of my outfits on purpose. I was like, okay, I'm gonna just matchy match.
They matched, right? Actually, speaking of, happy St. Patty's Day. Speaking of
That's
green.
right. That's today. And I went to a Celtics game last week, and I
Did
wore
you really?
green. I wore bright green, and I didn't realize that was the Celtics color. And I used to live in Boston, don't forget. So I actually was a little bit of a Celtics fan, but now being a Miami resident, you can't be against the Heat. But they did not play well, so
So it was okay. It was okay.
no, every
Yeah,
time
you
I
wore
know they
green.
lose, I'm like, clearly,
I mean, I'm sure you could get away with it. You were in Boston for how many years?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Are
Yeah,
you originally from the Boston, Massachusetts area? You're from down.
New York.
You are from up there. Oh,
Yeah, I'm from New York. Yeah.
oh, from up here. Oh, New York, New York. So then you went up to Boston, back to New York, and then down to Miami.
Exactly.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Well, I'll let you go. Thanks for spending the time with me tonight.
Sure.
Really appreciate that, Doc. And yeah, we'll keep in touch. I want to see you keep moving forward with the content. You got to get back to it.
I know. Thank you. I will. And you too. Keep it up.
Yes. And don't let any of those sour partnerships get you down. You know what I mean?
No. I'm glad we talked about it on this podcast. Get out there. All right. Have a
All right.
Thank you.
You too. I'll talk to you soon.